to another episode of Musician Rewind. Today, my special guest is the Nancy Marie Gilliam McDuffie, for those of you who know her from around the way. Songwriter, actress, artist, author, and the list goes on and on. How you doing, Nancy?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, and my production partner and my life partner, just to add to the list. So everything's good?
Everything is good. How you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Okay, so like I do with every other guest now, this is going to be a little different because I met Nancy, she was a singer. So were you playing an instrument before you started singing?
I actually had started taking piano lessons when I was about, I guess I was 5 years old. My dad had my sister and I taking piano. Of course, my sister was, she is 10 years older than I am. So she was well established with all the instruments that she was playing, piano, organ, trumpet, trombone, you name it. She played it. So of course, me being 5 years old and rebellious, not wanting to practice or whatever, I did take piano. And then unfortunately, when I was 7 years old, my dad passed away. So all of the things that he was doing as far as nurturing me and preparing me um, to be a holistic, well-rounded individual, all of that stopped when he passed away.
Oh, okay. So what age or what made you continue on with that musically?
Well, I had actually been auditioned for a play in second grade, and the teacher gave me a solo, Let My People Go. And when I sang, everybody was kind of blown away and asked my mom, why didn't you tell us that she could sing like that? And my mom was like, I didn't know, so, opportunities like that would present themselves. I actually left Queens when I was 11 years old. I moved to California for a year, and then I returned to New York and ended up living with my sister for a while. And she put me into Manhattan Borough-wide chorus. Um, I ended up winning a scholarship from the chorus to the Hughes Dance Center for Performing Arts and the Hebrew School of Music. So I actually studied there for a year, named to the Chancellor's Roll of Honor. So the music and the singing was always there. When I ended up coming back to Queens, I ended up getting in a band with Clay Barrett, James Jackson, Paul Frawley, um, and kind of from there, that's where the musical thing really took off. Not so much for the singing, but for me as a songwriter.
Okay. So to go back a little bit, were you like as a kid singing in your room? Like was that just something you were doing, being that nobody
Yeah,
else
I
knew that you
was
could
I
sing?
was singing, and then we had a little group in my neighborhood called the Pee Wee Club. So we were always doing little performances and things like that. So I was singing, I was choreographing African dance numbers, you name it, I was doing it. And we also were blessed to have Clarice Taylor living on our block. For those of you who don't know who Clarice Taylor is, she actually played Bill Cosby's mother on The Cosby Show. She was the original Ada Pearl in The Wiz. She was in Five on the Black Hand Side. And she just made sure that everybody in the neighborhood who would hear her, and who would come around her. She just exposed us to the arts, exposed us to entertaining. We were constantly in her basement, doing things with her and her husband, just teaching us about the arts and, just nurturing those gifts that the kids in the neighborhood had.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that she lived over there. Speaking of which, that we talking about St. Albans area, y'all.
Yep.
What all farmers back over there? Farmers, Murdoch, that area for those who know. The green, right back in Green Rock. Everybody knows that on farmers.
Yes.
Um, so I didn't know Clarice Taylor lived over there, but Teresa Merritt, I know, lived on the other side of farmers.
Right.
For those who know that, that's who played That's My Mama.
Yeah.
We know her from TV, but I know she was Broadway.
Oh, absolutely. She was the first Ma Rainey in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Teresa was a blessing. I actually went to high school with her son Dennis, and used to be with Dennis and Denise in the neighborhood, prior to going to Performing Arts High School. So yeah, Clarice lived on our block, and that was my Aunt Reese. Um, she was the one that was responsible for inadvertently getting me cast in my first professional production. Um, I actually had went to an audition with Cheryl, who was my play cousin on the block, and we got to the audition, and Cheryl was kind of acting goofy or whatever, and so Joe Papp was like, "Well, why don't you give her a try?" And like I said, I didn't go with the intention of auditioning. I just went
Right,
to, kind of hang out or whatever.
right.
And I did the audition, did everything they asked me to do. And we got home, and Cheryl's mom informed me that I got the part. So that was in the wedding band with Ruby D,
Hmm.
Aunt Reese, Brandon Maggard, Garrett Morris actually came in at the same time I came in as a replacement for Albert Hall. So it was just a phenomenal time of life. Polly Holiday. It was just an all-star cast, and I actually did get to go on the closing night. Polly and Aunt Reese and Juanita and them, they were, in the corner, like plotting something. I didn't know what they were up to. And they came over to me, and Ruby said, "Go put on a costume. We're getting you on stage tonight."
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh my God." So, yeah, I actually got to make my off Broadway debut on that night, which was amazing.
And this
And
and this is what age?
oh my goodness, I was 11 years old. This was
Okay,
right before I left for California. Yep.
11. So what? Early junior high school, sixth grade, something like that.
Yeah. Fifth.
Fifth. Okay.
No, 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 sixth. You're right. Sixth grade. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So speaking of that, so did you do anything when you was out in California? I know you said it's only a year.
Um, I did a couple of auditions, but nothing really jumped off from me there. It was more so I was getting into a lot of trouble because I really didn't appreciate the fact that I had left Queens. I was
Right.
kind of homesick and detached from everybody and everything that I knew, and trying to fit in to the California lifestyle. It was a little bit challenging for me, and I actually ended up getting into a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been getting into, directly and indirectly. So my mom ended up sending me back to New York to live with my sister. Um, so that's how I ended up living with Debbie for a year. And then I had to go and live with my other sister because of some situations and circumstances that were going on at the time. So I moved to Fresh Meadows. Um, and, pretty much once I got back to Cali, I went to USC to get my master's degree, and wasn't really doing too much, but just focusing on getting my
Right.
degree. But
Right.
most of
So
the things that really happened for me happened in New York.
right. So when you got sent back and you were staying with your sisters, is so this would be around the band era that you started getting into the bands.
Yeah, after I moved to Fresh Meadows, and I would go, during the summertime, I spent with my other play cousins, the Lindors, and Patty was dating Clay Barrett at the time, and they were looking for a vocalist, and she told him that I sang, and so that's how I got in that first band. And the rest is history. Started taking off, and like I said, it wasn't so much for the vocals because I was really struggling at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and I really can't pinpoint what it was, but when I would get in front of a group of people, it was just like I couldn't perform,
Right.
and it was something that I struggled with because I knew what I could do in private, but like getting out on the scene, it was like, what is wrong with me? Um, and it was a lot of emotional baggage that I had to unpack, and I'm still unpacking to this day. But in any event, we would be sitting in rehearsal, and the guys would just be jamming, just throwing together something
Right.
original. And I would sit there and I'd listen, and 5 minutes I'd be like, okay, play what you just played. And I'd start singing. They were like, wait, how did you do that? So I got the reputation, for being a great songwriter, and people just started, coming out the woodworks asking me, to write to
Yeah,
their original material.
right. Because that's how I heard about you as a songwriter.
Yeah.
People was like, yeah, get Nancy McDuffie. She'll write it. And the thing was, not a lot of bands was really doing original music.
Right.
Not at our age at that time. Everybody wasn't thinking like that. I think later on. So at that time, you was at Performing Arts, which everybody knows. I guess they know as the Fame School.
Yep.
Did you have a song in that
Did I have a
in the
song in
movie?
Fame?
Yeah,
No, I was in Fame.
right.
My sister was actually on the music side. Um, she did the background vocals with Patty Austin. I can't remember who else
Mm,
they had singing background, but she did the background vocals on most of the songs. Especially Fame. Um, and I was an extra. I actually did the lunchroom scene. And
right, I
if you look
remember
very
that.
carefully, you see me, yeah, in the Betsy
Right,
Ross outfit getting beat up by a bunch of dancers. So yeah, that was my part.
right. So I mean, we both know Anthony Evans. I believe he had a tune.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I know this is around the time you met Paul. I know Paul from high school. I remember that band you were talking about. Like I know, weren't they the twins? Weren't they called the twins or something? Clay, didn't he have a brother?
No, Clay.
No?
Clay didn't have a
Well,
brother.
maybe we thought they were twins or something. Cause wasn't they um yeah, cause us being from the Jamaica side, I didn't know too many people over. I think Paul might have been the first person I met from that side of town. Cause
Mhm.
I met Julio later. I met Paul, I knew Paul before him.
Yeah,
Um
I met Julio much later as well. Um, because his sister and I were in the same class. Um, and then, of course, Anthony Ogburn.
mhm,
We all kind of started hanging out
right.
together in Queens. I did a lot of writing for Julio. As a matter of fact, one of the favorite pieces that I wrote um, was a song called "Run On Wild and Free."
Mhm.
And Anthony Ogborn actually did the vocals on that. And it had been a while since I had heard from Julio because I had went back to California to again get my master's degree. And when we linked up, he told me, "Girl, we did your song at this club, and Anthony introduced you as the songwriter, and the crowd went crazy, and that just like it
Nice.
warmed my heart because I was like, okay, this is something that we did. We recorded in the basement, and
Right.
to have that kind of reaction, I was like, this is all right with me.
Right. So moving along, I met you through John Willis. Actually met
No.
you. No, I've seen you before, but I didn't really
Okay.
meet you.
All right.
Just at the time you were James, I would see y'all coming out of rehearsal.
Right. Okay.
Since I was around the corner at my aunt's house all the time. So yeah, and I knew who you were, but I had never met you.
Okay.
So I didn't really meet you until the whole John thing. But how did you meet John?
Okay. So this is a funny story, and yeah, I'm gonna tell it. It's all right because I'm healed now. I was a little hurt at the time. So things in the band with Paul and James and them kind of went south real quick, and they wanted to get rid of me, but they didn't know how to do it diplomatically. So to this day, and I told this story to Warren, and he says that he thinks that this was totally James's idea. But in any event, they told me that the band had broke up, right? And sometime later, I found out that they had lied and that the band actually didn't break up. They just said that it broke up so they could get rid of me.
Wow, they went a long way
Um,
on that one.
and so when I confronted them about it, of course, Paul was saying, "Oh, that was James' idea," and James
Of
was saying
course.
that was Paul's idea, or whatever. And Clay was just like mute point, saying, "I ain't have nothing to do with it," or whatever. But out of that is where I was connected with John, and he invited me to become a part of GEMSA. And for those of you that don't know, the word GEMSA means universal harmony. And I tell you, I needed some universal harmony in my life at that point because I was just like devastated that, they would go to the lengths that they did to get rid of me.
Right.
Um, instead of just dealing with me and saying, look, this isn't working out,
Right.
gonna
Right.
let you go,
So
whatever.
yeah. So me playing when I played with John, well, actually I played with John and Steve's band first. Master Force. That's how I
Mm.
met him. But then we were doing the fusion thing, and we loved it, but all we were doing was rehearsing in the basement. so so by that time, the whole fusion thing, we talking late 70s. If you wasn't doing it professionally, the fusion thing wasn't gonna make you no money.
Mm,
And that's when John decided we was gonna make that shift. And that's when you came, that's when we brought vocals into the group.
right.
And that's when, you started getting work doing that. You had to do what everybody else was doing.
Yeah. And
And
it's funny you say that because, you know, um, through the grapevine and everybody, talking about me as a songwriter is how I got connected with Ron Dean Miller. And Ron, gave me a couple of tracks that he wanted me to write to um, for a new group that he was doing. Vicky Love was the artist, and the group was Nuance. So I took the material, and I've always been a conscious writer, if you will. I always, said that I was born a decade too late because I really think I would have taken off if, time wise, if I was in the midst of that whole Motown era when Motown was
hmm
Motown for real. I
right,
just think that, my style of writing really would have jumped off back then. So, bringing it back in, I originally wrote this tune and it was about a young lady trying to escape an abusive relationship. And I just thought at the time this was my crowning glory. This was it, the song. And so I turned it into Ron. And when I tell you that man laid me out, told me I better not ever hand him no bleep, bleep, bleep like that again. I was like, oh, okay. And so he was like, yeah, you write something else.
Right.
So I called myself being spiteful, right? I said, okay, I'm just gonna write anything. And in me writing anything, got me my first hit record, first #1 single as a writer. Um, and that tune was Take a Chance,
Yeah,
Vicky Love.
which was a big record.
Yeah, it was
Everybody
it was huge.
it's still played in certain markets.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like you said, I don't know if that was the beginning of we don't want nothing meaningful, and not to say that that wasn't meaningful, but the fact you said I'm just gonna write anything. Um, we know somewhere in the '80s that music started to change and it was just about making money. But nevertheless, it was a hit.
It was a hit. And you know, I appreciate, what it did. The other tune, I actually had three tunes on that particular album.
Oh, okay.
Stop Playing on Me got picked up by NBC television as the theme song for an episode of the remake of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And that
Hmm.
episode was called The Gloating Place. So
Okay.
that was actually the theme for that particular
Right.
episode. Um, and just the fact that, shout out to the men that were on the project, but the caliber of women that were brought together for that particular album. So you had Debbie Cole,
Mm.
Audrey Wheeler, and Cindy Mizelle doing the background vocals. Okay. Melissa Morgan was another one of the lyricists on that
Right.
project.
Mm.
So it was just like being in the midst of those powerful women. It was just like, it was awesome. And I remain grateful, that he challenged me to do something different,
Right.
you know. And I still had the space to, do my conscious stuff,
Right.
just not in that arena. So
Right. So okay, so you being a wordsmith to agree. When did you get into to being an authoress to start and get into the book phase?
okay, so that came at a point in life where, when my life was low, that part.
Mhm.
Um, I had gotten married, had twin girls, discovered that my husband had a serious drug problem,
Mm.
and I pretty much just shut down and stopped doing anything creative to try to, just keep my household afloat
Right.
and, keep things together. Um, and I literally, couldn't acknowledge it at the time, but one day the light bulb just came on, and I recognized that I was literally dying inside, because I wasn't doing anything creative.
Right.
And I came to the realization that with all the gifts that God gave me, it was a slap in his face for me not to be doing anything or using my trauma and my current situation as an excuse not to.
Right.
Not only was I not serving myself, I wasn't serving my children. I wasn't, setting a good example for them.
Right.
So, I started inching my way back. And at that time, writing was the easiest and most suitable thing to do, if you would,
Right.
So that coupled with the fact that I had been teaching, and I got into a situation where I had got laid off. And so, after, dealing with the depression over that, not having an income, God kind of pushed me and said, okay, so what are you going to do? To do what I put you on the earth to do, right? So
Right.
I started writing. I started submitting, and I got my first magazine publication, which was awesome. But then a little while, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that first article got published, I got an email, and how he found me, I'll never, I don't know. But
Right.
Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul sent me an email and asked me to submit to Chicken Soup for the African American Soul. I had a story in mind. It was a story of, about one of the experiences I had teaching this young man who, we would bump heads, um, practically every day. His class was one of my most difficult classes, and he was one of my most difficult students. And we ended up becoming very close, just because the Lord prompted me to apologize to him. And the
Mm-hmm.
name of that story um, was A Few Kind Words. So I submitted that story,
Right.
and next thing I know, I get the email that the story has been accepted. So that really kicked off the whole writing thing. I was on the book tour with Lisa Nichols, um, and Tom Joyner. Um, and it was amazing. And from there I went on to do Chicken Soup for the African American Woman Soul, and I also served as Lisa Nichols special project coordinator.
Right.
So I was responsible for, getting everything together for the book tour, making sure that, we kept in contact with all of the authors, because the authors were nationwide.
Right.
um, and so that, that really kickstarted a bunch of things. I've done 7 titles with the Chicken Soup series. Most recently, um, the last book that was dedicated to Black women, which was called I'm Speaking Now. I did my story, Dear Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, which is the true story of how I stole his phone number out of my sister's phone book, and, with no intentions of calling him, but actually ended up calling him and embarrassing myself. So
Ah,
that was a fun story
right.
um, to do. Another thing I just found out that came out of the whole Chicken Soup experience was one of the stories that I wrote in the Teens Talk Middle School book, which was called True Friend, about the relationship that formed with one of my dearest friends, Bryn Clark, was actually picked up and turned into a musical. So that just that blew my mind when I
Mm.
found out that information, that, a segment of my life had touched somebody
Wow.
in that way, that they went and created a children's musical theater piece out of that story, and,
Wow.
credited me, this came out of this woman's story. So that
Right.
was just that blew my mind.
Wow.
That
That's great.
absolutely blew my mind. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So those who don't know, we have a production company, K and James Entertainment, to which now you're into the directing videos, that aspect of the business.
Yes.
What got you to directing?
I think I kind of just fell into it.
Mhm.
It wasn't anything that I was actually pursuing. Um, as a matter of fact, the first video that I did, let me make sure I have my details right. I believe it was Tommy's video.
Okay.
I think that was the first video that I did. We just got the camera, and it was, I guess, a gift that was waiting to be birthed. It's like, um, having done a lot of film festivals
Right.
and getting in through that end and seeing what it was, meeting Monty Ross and working with him, and Curtis Nichols and all those people.
Right. For
I
those who
kind of,
don't know, Monty Ross worked with Spike Lee.
right, that was Spike's right hand man.
Right. Right.
Um, Beautiful brother. So again, working with helping to produce a lot of these film festivals nationwide, and getting into that aspect of the industry through different people, it kind of opened my eyes to another thing that I could do. And
Right.
like I said, Tommy was the first project that I actually did solo,
Right.
of course, with you being my wingman. That
Hmm.
was quitting every 5 seconds, but we're not gonna bring that up
It
on the
was
show.
hot. It was 1,000
It was a
degrees.
hundred and something degrees out there, and Kevin quit on me every other minute, but it was all good. We got it done. So out of that, I was blessed to, do a couple of videos,
Yeah.
including my own
Right.
for
Well,
Sunny
you
Day.
shot Tommy's only two. He only has two right now.
Yeah, we
And you
shot
shot both of
Tommy's, and
those.
then we
Right.
did All We Need Is Love.
Right.
Um, I did two of Tony Max,
Right.
ICU, and By Your Side with him and Daryl Gibbs. And then I've, been doing random stuff for the Black Education Station as well. So,
Right.
you know,
Right. So and within that, like you understand that this lady does so much. So she also invests her time into young women as she works with the Evelo House.
yeah.
Talk a little about that.
Okay, so the Evalor House is a nonprofit organization here in Philadelphia. We've been recognized by the Obama White House as a champion of change. So our goal is to provide young women of color with the tools and resources that they need to build a brighter, bolder future. So we do programming usually during the summer, where we provide personal development and workforce development. So they get exposed to STEM, they get exposed to financial literacy, they get exposed to fashion, they get exposed to a myriad of things that will help them, make some decisions about their future, where they want to go, what they might want to do when they grow up. But most importantly, our focus is to make sure that they leave us with their self-esteem high, knowing that there's nothing they can't accomplish as long as they put their mind to it. So,
Right.
um, and an offshoot of that was I actually became a podcast producer. We had a meeting with the girls, a Table Talk Philly meeting, and we had asked the girls, what more could the Evalor House do for them?
Right.
And they said that the Evalor House did everything they needed to do, and it was time for them to do something. So they started brainstorming on ideas of what they would like to do, and the podcast was one of those things. Long story short, I ended up becoming the podcast producer. I had no experience in podcasting, but it was meant for me to be the producer
Right. And the
and
editor.
and the editor. And we just completed our third season. We are officially heard in 6 continents,
Wow. Congratulations.
37 countries. We have held number one spots on Apple Podcasts continuously since the launch, and it's just amazing what Girl Truth, what lens are you looking through, has done
Yeah.
for the girls and for this organization.
Yeah. And that's a blessing. And I've actually seen that grow because I get to see her edit and all kinds of stuff. So I see all that she does. Okay, so we're gonna talk about your own project. So on my first project, you wrote and sang two tunes, Love, Peace, and Soul, right?
Yeah.
And All We Need Is Love, what you shot the video for. Um, and then you did your own uh Sunny Days,
Yes.
which was a hot tune. Now, let's let's not forget the tunes that we did for Everlaw House that never got used,
Right.
which I thought was some great stuff.
Yeah,
Don't mean that it won't get used.
right.
Um, I remember you saying the house tune that we did. I can't remember the name of it.
Evolve.
Evolve. That a DJ wanted it then,
Yes.
and it wasn't even mixed.
Yeah, that was a hot tune.
Yeah, so you always write great stuff and quick about it too. Are you looking to continue doing anything, or just the plates just running over?
I actually am. Um, like musically, there's a lot more that I need to say, and it is something that I want to do. My biggest challenge again is just finding balance and making sure that number one, I have time to replenish
Right,
because of course when you're always running and doing, um, you can burn out, and you know being burnt out doesn't benefit anyone. So
right,
you have to kind of make time to just renew. I love going by the water and just like inhaling and exhaling and just resetting, and so as long as I can manage what I can manage, I will always be doing music.
right. I know that was an Everlaw House event, but I had the fashion show and stuff. I think
Yes.
the first one I had went to with Sarah, rest in peace, Sarah Dash,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, and some other celebrities that were there. That was a great event. I got to
Yeah.
meet. I didn't know that who it was, but I was sitting with some older ladies who I had a ball with, and come to find out that one of them were you told me had the first black bank
Yeah,
here
United
in
Bank.
Philly.
Yep, the
Mhm.
owner of United Bank.
When I tell you them ladies were hilarious. Oh, so what you got on the map coming up?
I've been getting back to doing voiceover work, which is a blessing. Um, One thing that I didn't say was when I was in high school, um, Jerome Escal, who was over the drama department at the time, had gotten me some work as a voiceover artist. I did a segment with Ted Page Educational Film Strips, a project called Making a Sentence Your Own. That was my first exposure to doing voiceover work.
Right,
And then I later on went to do a project with Bert Neufeld. It was a campaign for high blood pressure, um, national high blood pressure campaign called Little Brother. Um, so, full circle, back in, I think it was 2018, I got to do a project with Len Webb, who was a former partner of mine. He went on to start doing great things in the film and theater industry and in podcasting. Um, so he is the founder of the Black Tribbles. And if you don't know about the Black Tribbles, you need to look them up. Um, Awesome, group of individuals. And so they did a recording that they had me come in on where I, actually read three stories. It was the Octavia Project. And from that, I got a call to start, doing these types of stories again.
right,
So I just recorded two with Wimoto and Dusky projects. Um, so it was awesome to be back in the studio actually doing dialect.
right,
Yeah, it was deep. It was deep. I actually had to get into the Igbo dialect. and it was really interesting because when I first looked at the script, I almost backed out because it was like, there's no way. But they provided audio recordings, and as I began to listen and put together the phonetics, I was
Right.
able to catch on and execute. And the reason I got nervous was because I received the script the day before, so
Right.
so I
Wow.
was like, yeah, I don't think I can do this, but
Right. But you knocked it out.
yeah, yeah, it
Definitely
was
knocked
it
it
was
out.
awesome.
That's what talented people do.
Yeah,
Okay, so I know you're out to the ATL this week for the launch of
the Black Education Station.
yes. Talk a little bit about that. Now, very important that is.
Yes. So I received a call from a beloved brother that I'd actually met back in 2006, I believe, when I did the African American Literary and Media Conference in Reno, Nevada. Um, he came in, and we actually got to launch his first book, The Hustler's 10 Commandments, which I was also a part of. So we reconnected. He reached out to me and told me that he was involved with this new platform. It's a streaming platform, first ever streaming platform that's dedicated to the educational needs of Black children. Um, and he said that he thought that I would be a perfect fit with, my background in education and the things that I did when I was an educator,
Right.
and being an advocate for holistic education for our children. So that's how I got involved with that. I am the official spokesperson, as well as working with creator acquisition. So, what I do is I go out and get people who already have content
Hmm.
created and invite them to have their content streamed on the platform. I also go out and look for people who might be interested in creating original content for the
Hmm.
platform. Um, so it's a big darn deal. We're kicking off the platform this coming Friday in Atlanta. The majority of the team is in Atlanta. I'm the only one in Philadelphia, so I'm the outlier in the group, if you will.
Right.
Um, but it's amazing. We did a preview, a private screening preview last week, and one of the episodes that we got to watch came from the Hustle Brothers and Celebrity Friends. So just to show you the magnitude of this content, and I'll explain why this is so important after I describe what we witnessed. So Hustle Brothers is a cartoon, and they reach out and teach children about a variety of topics that you may not get exposed to in school, because
Right.
critical race theory, and they're banning books, and they're doing everything
Right.
in an educational system that was never designed for us in the first place.
Right.
So you have the cartoon, and this particular topic was teaching children how they should deal with the police. So the cartoon is going and going and going. And then the next thing you know, they transition to the celebrity. And the celebrity happened to be Ice T. When I tell you, I lost my rabbit mind when I saw that, because it was so apropos, and the way that he was teaching the children
Mm.
about how to deal with the police.
Right.
Now, I know our listening audience is already saying, well, wait a minute. Back in the day, he had the F the Police song. Yeah, absolutely. And he brought that up. He also brought up the fact that he currently plays a cop on TV. So he was able to bring in his total life experience
Right.
and provide for children the information that they need to be able to hopefully navigate and deal with the police successfully. So this is the type of things that we need, because again, with all the things that are going on, critical race theory, banning books,
Right.
determining what can be taught, what can't be taught, not telling the truth about Black history.
Right.
This platform is needed. I'm not saying that this platform is the salvation or the solution to the problem, but it's definitely a piece of the puzzle. And
Definitely.
we want to be able to provide resources for the parents who just got fed up with the school system and decided that what, I'm going to homeschool my child.
Right.
So we want to make sure they have the resources they need. We want to make
Absolutely.
sure that children with autism um, have things that they can look to enhance their educational experience. Because truth be told, this current educational system that we're under, it was designed to, point blank create slaves.
Oh, of
Our
course.
educational system is based upon the Prussian educational system. Um, you know, and that was just, designed to create people who obeyed orders and went along with whatever they're
Of
told.
course. Malcolm X said it. Don't let the
Yep,
oppressor teach your children.
right,
In
right.
the story. Right.
And our children deserve so much more. They deserve to have choices. They deserve to know what it means to think critically. They deserve to know that they have the right to question what they're taught and to go and do their own research to find out whether or not what they're being told is true.
Right. They need to know that their life value is worth more than some damn Jordans.
Right. They
Right.
need to see themselves represented. And
Right.
so the content on the station, they're going to see Black people doing things that, you know, our lighter skinned brothers and sisters don't want them to know that they're able to do. We
Hmm.
have a program called Career Day, which exposes children to different things that they can consider to become their career. We have authors reading their children's books. Um, Again, like I said, we have the Hustle Brothers, which is just a phenomenal series. And we're still looking for content creators. So it would be great if some of our listeners, hey, you have some content you think would be appropriate for children age 10 and under to learn about the music business or to learn music or
Right.
whatever, we invite you to come on board.
Right. Because these kids need to know what's all what's open to them
Right,
instead of being told that the glass ceiling and all that nonsense. Or
right,
yeah, they need to know. And the thing is, it's stuff that was done before, and they can look in any area and see where Black folks excelled at it. But
right.
it was hidden. It was hidden.
Yep,
They need to know every time they look at a traffic light created by a Black man, gas
right,
mask created by so much invented by who they try to tell you was no good. So
right.
yeah. So okay, so I mean, how can people reach you? Give me your link tree and where they can check you out at and follow you.
Okay. So I'll make it real simple for everybody. My link tree is the underscore Nancy underscore Marie. And within my link tree is all the links to my Instagram, my Facebook, the Black Education Station, the Evalore House, the podcast, everything that you need to reach me, anything that you would be interested, can be accessed through that link tree.
Cool. So y'all make sure y'all get on Instagram and follow her at every platform she has. Check out her single "Sunny Days" on all the digital platforms. And Miss Nancy Marie, we want to thank you so much for being the guest on and allowing us to rewind to the beginning with you.
Thank you for having
And
me. I
we
appreciate it.
thank you so much. And we're gonna look to the new stuff you got in the future. Of course, I got tracks waiting.
Absolutely. Let's get it done.
All right, y'all. We're gonna give it up for another girl from Queens, Nancy
Yeah.
Marie. All right. Thanks for joining us. Y'all listen out for the next episode. Musician Rewind. We out.